Hello, my name is Protik Mukhopadhyay. I'm an entrepreneur and an author. I'll be hosting the Reimagine Sales Systems podcast, where I'll be bringing some of the industry thought leaders who will be sharing their go-to-market strategies for their business systems.
Hi everyone, my name is Protik. I also have Mathieu from Coursera. He's the head of strategy and revenue operations. Welcome to our podcast today, Matt.
Thank you, Pratik, and thank you for having me. Exciting to be here.
Awesome. So can you talk a little bit about your journey in the enterprise world? I know Coursera is a really awesome company, but how did you get started and how did you get to the strategy and RevOps role? Very interesting to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. And first, my background before joining the enterprise world was in management consulting. So I spent the first 5 years of my career advising telecom regulators and telecom companies in their digital and go-to-market strategies before transitioning into the enterprise world. And I think it's useful context because a lot of consultants often reach out to me and say, hey, how do you get into enterprise software? How do you get from consulting into the industry? And then so I joined in 2012 a B2B software organization in their business operations team. And what business operations meant at my previous company is, in essence, it refers to the management of the transformation within an organization. So running large initiatives that translate the strategy into execution for such as managing large initiatives, managing post-merger integration of companies you acquire, and a number of different roles. So I stayed there for 7 years, and my time there was really to start from purely the program management, then to the M&A type of integration, and then at the end, spent a lot of time as well running the business management of the business practice of one business unit, which consists of understanding and managing the cadence of the business, making sure that you have the right performance KPIs in place, and then managing a lot of these underlying initiatives to keep the business growing and keep the business operating well. So that's kind of like how I went from consulting into the world of enterprise software, and then I moved to my current company to run the strategy and operations of the enterprise business. And the interesting thing about Coursera is that they both have, on one end, the consumer business, which is like the business that I started with in 2012, and then they have these more traditional, semi-traditional B2B with more constituents, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, that consist of the enterprise business. And maybe last point to your question. So today my role is really to drive sales, marketing, customer success operations, managing the cadence of the business, managing the strategic planning and business insights. And then there's also 3 other components, which is like processes, compensation and policies, and after the linkage with tools and tech stack.
That's really helpful, and that's a wide portfolio. So I'm sure a lot of interesting projects and challenges. So in terms of Coursera's go-to-market strategy, you explained a little bit about the B2B and the B2C, but can you share a little bit more about what does Coursera do as a company? I know all of us are familiar probably with more the consumer facing, but on the business side, and also how does your team essentially enable that motion?
Yes, and happy to share. And by the way, this is what I'm sharing, and what we're discussing today is a public knowledge, so that goes without saying, but I wanted to reiterate it.
Thank you.
In terms of go-to-market strategy, so we partner with about 200 leading educational institutions and industry partners to bring high quality higher education to a broad range of individuals, academic institutions, organizations, and governments. And our offer really ranges from these short guided projects that are very short, type of classes in nature, to full online degrees. So we allow learners to discover and access relevant content and affordable content, consume it on their schedule, and then build upon the progress towards wherever they want to achieve or wherever they want to go in terms of the sales studies and the credential. And so as a company, we have one platform with all of the content underlying and these type of courses. And within the enterprise world, so our go-to-market is really around three main axes. Number one is the Coursera for business. So what you could call as a typical B2B. So we help employers upskill and reskill their team to drive innovation, remain competitive, grow, and basically these companies have access to most of the content of our consumer business, and it's really like it's really a lot of our B2B customers particularly like our data science, technology, and business content. So that's number one. Number two is our Coursera for campus offer, so targeting universities, where we empower these academic institutions to offer job-relevant online education for students, faculty, and staff. And basically, we repurpose the content of other universities for these universities, and we allow students to earn credit toward their college degree by taking these online courses. And last but not least is Coursera for government. So we also sell our content, or educational content, to federal, state, and local government who typically want to deliver workforce reskilling programs that provide in-demand skills and paths to new job for either the immediate staff of the government, or at times the government can also share that content to unemployed people of their organization. So that's kind of like how business, go-to-market is built. One, you have typical B2C, then you have enterprise, which is B2B, then universities, then governments.
Awesome, thank you. Kind of diving in, and this is more about systems. So feel free to mention with the context of Coursera or even your prior experience. But like when you want to develop a robust go-to-market system, like what are the typical systems do you see you need to put in place to align with business, right? It could be homegrown, it could be systems that are bought off the shelf, but a lot of our listeners are interested to see that how do you handle so many different sales motions, so many different routes to market?
Yeah. So yeah, and like you said, I will speak more broadly. So this answer is not Coursera specific or even prior employer specific, but there are different routes. There are building blocks of a tech stack that are very similar company to company in I guess in the Silicon Valley or in the Bay Area, where you must have a CRM, where you have like a contract management system, when you have like a tool for doing billing. So you have like some of the key foundational building block, and some of these building block can be divided across your different teams as well. So there's more and more teams for more and more tools, for instance, that cater to a very, very specific or niche audience. So customer success employees nowadays have a range of different solutions that it's very tailored to customer success, that used to be part of a CRM, but now that are integrated with the CRM is one example. For like your BDR, SDR reps, there's more and more tools that can analyze, first help them communicate to customers seamlessly across different channels. So that's a big improvement in this world as well, this ability to communicate from an organization to your customers through across channel. And SDR, so people who reach out to prospects, have now a range of tools as well that can help them either communicate more, in a personalized way, in a more effective way, but also get more what they call now conversational intelligence on top of their speeches. So when they speak, we can record the conversation, we can monitor the type of insights we get from them, and whether they are addressing or mentioning the key new offers that we put to the market. So there's really like nowadays a very large array of tools that are at your disposal. And I mentioned customer success, I mentioned marketing, SDR, sometimes in sales, but also in sales now we have much more tools that allow you to improve your forecasting practice. So some of the tools that I've been using in my previous companies include some previous or current companies include some predictive metrics or predictive insights on where you will land on your forecast just based on where the deals are at which stage and how do they forecast, and based on previous 4 quarters they tell you that we think you're gonna land there, and then you can compare with your own forecast. So it's really a great time nowadays to be in this world of revenue operation and strategy, because you have access to tons of tools that now deploy some AI capabilities that really help you as a leader.
Thank you. No, that's very insightful. Now, in terms of projects, right? I know when you look at solutions, there's always the people and the process component along with the solution. So whether in your current role or your prior experience, but like what are typical challenges that you have faced and some lessons learned? So if you have to redo some of those projects, how would you go about doing their execution?
Yeah. So I think one of the main lessons learned for me in the past few years have been the challenges of trying to do too much at once, and basically as a manager at times having a team that is too highly solicited and on the verge of burning out. So that's been something that I've tried to address and try to take into consideration, so that everybody's in the team feels like they have adequate workload and bandwidth. And one of the things that we've done to address that, in particular the burnout, because there's so many priorities, so many needs, is to launch a practice of OKR, so objective key results, where as an organization and with your cross-functional partners, you decide on what will be the key objectives under a few key strategic priorities that you really want to address, and have key owners and key accountable parties for all of them, and typically making sure that these cross-functional stakeholders are engaged in the process of defining them, deciding them, and working on them, so that a way for me nowadays to really make sure that there's less of this last-minute large projects that can burn out the team, is to really think, okay, with my stakeholders and saying, hey, these are the 5 or 10 OKRs that we will be counting ourselves accountable for this coming quarter or this coming months. And outside of that, it might become best effort, but we can't commit to the rest. So I'll commit on these OKRs, but I won't commit on the rest. And that's been making our life a little bit more, I guess, not reasonable. It's still a lot of work when you're in a high growth company, but at least there's more expectation being set.
Awesome. That's true, right? I mean, you have to divide and conquer and align that through OKRs. That's a great insight. COVID was a very interesting time. I think some businesses did better than others, but in terms of priorities for 2021, like what are some of the initiatives or projects you are thinking that you want to take up that you couldn't do, and are some of those impacted because of COVID? Just want to understand, like how are you thinking about 2021? And I'm sure 2020 was a very different and unexpected year for all of us.
Yeah. And definitely, I mean, COVID has been a terrible, thing for the world overall.
Right.
But for businesses that support digital transformation of businesses that provide online services, it has still been a tailwind in a way, and it has accelerated a number of, for instance, online education, if in the case of Coursera, or it has accelerated the adoption of digital solution in case of my previous employer. So there's, COVID has been, terrible for the world in many regards, but in terms of a few of these businesses that support that have digital solution, it's been an accelerator of the business. And so when it comes to our biggest priorities, and by the way, I will reiterate again, these are priorities that are publicly shared. So when it comes to Coursera, there's a couple of them. So first, we as an overall organization, we want to continue investing in all of our enterprise channels, because Coursera's growth is driven in part by expansion into new logos or new customers, as well as the broader penetration of learners within existing base of customer, universities, and government customers. So we really have like this land and expand strategy. So we want to keep emphasizing that and have like this big acquisition engine to grow the business. That's number one. Number two, we have been launching a number of freemium offerings. So we want to really drive the adoption and conversion of these freemium offerings, because during the pandemic, and that was one of your segues around COVID. So during this COVID crisis, we open up a platform to our enterprise customer base through multiple initiatives, and particularly helping universities and helping governments. And so now that we've offered these solutions for free, and we continue to doing so in some areas, we want to still drive the adoption and drive the conversion if if people using it believe that this solution is of course providing value to them, and it's of course our belief is that it does. And then I would say another two, one that is improving the conversion, upsell, and retention of paid consumer learners. And maybe I won't spend too much time on it because that's more of the B2C area. But the last one is to continue our global expansion, because we see a very large opportunity to help emerging economies that lack the ability to absorb all of these adult students within their universities. And we really want to continue to market our offerings to and programs to these individual learners and businesses in these emerging economies. So that's a big area also of priority for us.
Thank you. We're almost at the end of our podcast. So final question. What advice would you give somebody starting their career, like somebody who's a business analyst or somebody who's in consulting, and if they want to take this path and head RevOps and strategy at a company, what are some of the lessons learned? What are some of the advice you would give them who are early in their career?
Yeah, I think first it's a great domain to be in. Every company needs or has some RevOps equivalent. So it's definitely a great career path for a lot of these young business analysts. I would say be curious and learn as much as you can is my overall advice. I may preach some of the choir if they are listening to your podcast already. And of course, being at Coursera, this is something that I truly believe, continuous learning throughout your career. But yeah, by being curious, it's subscribing to podcasts where you learn about the SaaS business, when you learn about if you are, if we think about enterprise SaaS, of course, when you learn about, what are the key metrics, how do you run a business? So you're improving your business acumen is one aspect, and there's tons of resources online to do so. Then you have the more, I would say, hardcore technical skills that sometimes can be gained within a company, but you can also learn a number of skills online as well. There's skills on like managing a CRM platform, and all of the CRM platforms have educational content that is usually free of charge because they want people to learn their own platform. So there's a ton of technical content that can be also accessed and learn online. So yeah, it's a little bit of the two. Is like learning on one end, getting this business acumen and understanding how the revenue flows and how a company is run and operated, and on the other hand, it's learning maybe some of these slightly more technical skills that can be data visualization, data insights, or the even more hardcore skills of managing a CRM solution, managing other solutions that are billing and whatnot. So these are the type of avenues that I would think of.
Thank you. This has been a really nice podcast. You've been really insightful. So really appreciate all the insights, and love to get more feedback from our listeners. But thanks a lot for participating today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Protik. It's been a pleasure.
So with that, I would like to wrap up this podcast. Thank you all for tuning into Reimagine Enterprise Sales Systems. To listen to more exciting podcasts, please visit my website, protikm.com or protikm.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, and other channels that you follow so that you'll never miss your show.